Have you ever just stopped and wondered what makes our connections with other people tick? From that very first hello all the way to a deep, lifelong bond, or sometimes a really painful breakup. There's a whole journey there, a fascinating one. So let's dive in and map out the entire life cycle of a relationship.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's this puzzle we're all trying to solve in our own lives. Is it just pure chemistry? Is it timing? Hard work? Well, what we're going to do here is break down the science behind it all. We're going to look at the predictable stages and the unseen forces that guide every single one of our connections. So before we get into all the different stages, let's start at the absolute beginning. Why do we even bother connecting with people in the first place? Well, it turns out our drive to form bonds isn't just, a nice to have. It's a fundamental human need. And when you look at the benefits, they are incredibly real. We're not just talking about vague, fuzzy feelings. Research shows that having strong connections directly impacts our well-being. It boosts our self-worth, it fights off loneliness, and it literally helps balance our emotional scales, maximizing the good stuff and minimizing the bad. It can even improve our physical health. It's a powerful toolkit for a happier, healthier life. All right, so we know why we connect. Now, let's get into the how. A relationship isn't something that just pops into existence fully formed, right? It's a journey. And just like any journey, it has very distinct stages. So pretty much every deep bond you can think of follows a similar path, starting with these 3 huge steps. It all kicks off with contact, that very first impression. If there's a spark, you move on to involvement. That's where you start exploring, testing the waters, and really getting to know each other. And if that foundation gets solid enough, you can reach intimacy. And that's where a truly close, committed bond is formed. And get this, it shows just how fast our brains work. In that initial contact stage, some researchers believe we make up our minds about someone in the first 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Think about that. That's all the time you might have to make an impression that decides whether a connection even gets a chance to start. No pressure, right? Okay. So how do we actually get from that first contact to something deeper? Well, the absolute key is communication. And social penetration theory gives us this fantastic way to visualize it. Think of it like peeling back the layers of an onion. You build closeness by increasing the breadth, that's the number of different topics you talk about, and then the depth, which is how personal and vulnerable you're willing to get on those topics. So let's see what that looks like. When you first meet someone, when they're an acquaintance, the communication has almost no breadth. You stick to safe stuff, right? The weather, work, sports. And the depth is basically zero. It's all surface-level chit-chat. You can see how most of our inner world stays completely private. Now, as that connection grows into a friendship, watch what happens. The circle of shared topics gets wider. That's the breadth increasing. You start talking about hobbies, your family, your dreams for the future. And at the same time, the depth increases. You're sharing more personal feelings, maybe some insecurities, and that's what strengthens the bond. And finally, here's what an intimate relationship looks like. The breadth is huge. Almost every part of your life is on the table, open for discussion. And the depth is significant. You're sharing your deepest fears, your biggest hopes, your vulnerabilities. From a communication standpoint, this is what true intimacy is. It's wide-ranging and it's deeply personal. But of course, relationships don't always move in a perfect straight line toward intimacy. They hit bumps, they face challenges, and sometimes they start moving in the opposite direction. This is what we can call the relationship crossroads, where things can either fall apart or hopefully be repaired. This slide just captures that shift perfectly. Remember that onion analogy? Well, this is like putting the layers back on. Openness turns into withdrawal. Positivity is replaced by negativity. You stop sharing personal things, and in some cases, deception can start to creep in. These communication patterns are like a flashing warning light for the relationship's health. And this is a really crucial point. The decay, the deterioration. It often starts quietly, inside one person's head. It's not usually a big, dramatic fight. It's this slow-growing feeling of personal dissatisfaction. This internal unhappiness is the tiny seed that bigger problems can grow from. So this is the hopeful question, isn't it? When you start to see these signs, is the end just inevitable, or can a relationship that's on the brink actually be brought back? The answer is yes, it absolutely can, but it takes a very real, very intentional process. And here is a fantastic practical roadmap for that. It's the repair model. Each letter stands for a vital step. You start with R for recognizing the problem. You both have to be on the same page. Then E for engaging in productive communication. From there, you pose possible solutions together. Then you affirm each other. The final two are so important. I for integrating those solutions into your actual daily life. And maybe the hardest one, R for risking. Risking giving to the relationship without demanding something back right away. It's about breaking that negative tit-for-tat cycle.
Okay, for our final section, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. Because underneath all of these stages and communication patterns, there are a few core psychological theories, these unseen forces, if you will, that really explain why we make the relationship decisions that we do. So first up is something called social exchange theory. Now, it can sound a little cold, a little bit like accounting, but it's incredibly powerful. It basically says that we subconsciously view our relationships through an economic lens. We add up the rewards, things like love, support, fun, and we subtract the costs, like arguments, stress, and things we have to give up. If the result is a profit, we're motivated to stay. If it's a loss, we're motivated to leave. Now, equity theory takes that idea one step further. It says, hey, it's not just enough for you to be making a profit. For a relationship to be really satisfying and stable, both people need to feel that the balance is fair. Your ratio of rewards to costs should feel about the same as your partner's. If one person feels like they're giving 100% and only getting 20% back, that inequity creates major problems, even if they are technically still profiting from the relationship overall. It's all about fairness. This table just puts it all together beautifully. You can literally see the push and the pull. With social exchange, when rewards go up and costs go down, you move toward intimacy. When the opposite happens, you move away. With equity, when things feel fair and balanced, you're pulled closer. When inequity grows, you're pushed apart. But you see that third one? There's another crucial force at play here: politeness. So, what on earth is politeness theory? Well, it's not just about saying please and thank you. It's much deeper. It's about respecting and acknowledging each other's fundamental human needs. Just like the quote says, we all have a need to feel valued and liked, and we also have a need to feel independent and not be controlled. When we actively protect those core needs in our partner, the relationship thrives. When we ignore them or violate them, it starts to fall apart. So, as we wrap all this up, it really comes back to our everyday actions. Thinking about everything we've covered, from peeling the onion to making sure things feel fair. What's one small, polite action you can take today to strengthen a connection you care about? Maybe it's a genuine compliment that shows you value someone. Or maybe it's just asking a question that respects their independence. That one small action could be the start of moving a relationship in a much better direction.